Welcome to ElliptiGO's online support videos.
Here's the procedure for familiarizing yourself with the ElliptiGO.
Before riding the ElliptiGO for the first time, you should familiarize yourself with the bike. You've got your cockpit controls, which include grips that afford two different riding positions, your brakes, the right is the rear brake, the left is the front brake, your shifters with 8 speeds, a reflector for safety, and your stem. Next is the steering column. It has height adjustment at the steer and the folding mechanism. It's very, very important not to exceed the max extension line written right here on the steer tube. The ElliptiGO has 4 quick releases, 1 to adjust steering height, 2 to fold the steering column, and 1 at the front wheel. For safety, keep the quick releases tightened on your ElliptiGO at all times. From here you've got your frame made out of 7000 series aluminum. You've got your drive arms made out of 3K weave carbon fiber. The drive arm runs on a track system located inside the frame. 20-inch wheels, standard linear pole mountain bike V-brakes. The rear hub has a Shimano Alpine 8-speed internally geared hub. Your crankset is right here with a standard chain. And you have a kickstand holding the bike up. And that's the basic anatomy of the ElliptiGO. First, let's get comfortable operating the kickstand. Grab the steering column and the frame, lift the bike up, kick the kickstand back. To re-engage the kickstand, step on it, just rock the bike back. Do not stand on the ElliptiGO 8S when the kickstand is extended. Doing so could damage the 8S and void your warranty. With the bike on the kickstand, let's get familiar with the gear shifter. The ElliptiGO 8S has 8 speeds, all contained inside the hub. A couple of nice features of the internally geared hub is that you can shift while you're stopped and there is no derailleur. To shift gears, you can push with your thumb to shift into a higher gear and make it harder to pedal. Or you can pull with your index finger to shift into a lower gear and make it easier to pedal. After you push the thumb lever or pull the finger lever, make sure you release the lever to allow the hub to shift. Go ahead and pause the video and get comfortable shifting gears before we move on to the brakes. Now that you're comfortable shifting gears, let's move on to the brakes. Your ElliptiGO 8S comes equipped with front and rear brakes actuated by individual levers. The right brake lever controls the rear brakes and the left brake lever controls the front brakes. To operate the brakes, simply pull back on the lever. You can vary the braking force by varying how hard you pull on the brakes. Go ahead and pause the video and get comfortable with operating the brakes. Now let's adjust the steering column height. The ElliptiGO is a one-size-fits-all bike with 150 millimeters of steering column height adjustability. Adjusting the steering height is easy. Grab the stem and open the quick release at the top of the steering column. Slide the steering column to whatever height is comfortable, either up or down. If you're shorter, start with the steering column in the low position like 2. If you're average height, between 5'6" and 6 feet, go ahead and put the steering column around position 8. If you're taller than 6 feet, place the steering column in position 12. It's very, very important not to exceed the max extension line written right here on the steer tube. When you've found the correct height, sight down the front of the stem to the front wheel and close the quick release back up. To loosen or tighten the quick release, turn the bolt while holding the handle still. Once you have the desired tightness and are ready to close it, push the handle back towards the center. The correct pressure of the quick release should leave a slight indentation on your palm. For safety, keep the quick releases tightened on your ElliptiGO at all times. Always ensure that the quick release levers are tightened properly. An improperly tightened quick release lever can allow the steering column to move unexpectedly during operation and cause the rider to lose control and suffer a fall. Although we can adjust the stride length, let's start with it in the longest position and see how that feels. Step 2. Preparing to ride. Before any ride, especially your first ride, you should do a thorough safety check of your ElliptiGO. You should have a set of metric hex wrenches and a 15mm wrench with you before you start your inspection. Thoroughly examine the front and rear tires on both sides for damage and make sure that the tires are inflated to the proper pressure. Inspect the front wheel quick release system to make sure that the hub is securely seated on the fork and that the quick release has been closed properly with the appropriate amount of force. With the kickstand retracted, raise the front end of the bike off the ground several inches and then drop it. Watch and listen for unusual movements or noises as the bike strikes the ground. If you hear any unusual noise, continue this test until you can locate the problem. Do not ride the ElliptiGO bike until the problem is resolved. When in doubt, take the ElliptiGO bike to a professional bike mechanic for service or contact the service department at service@elliptigo.com. Inspect the wheels to ensure that they are true. Spin each wheel and watch it to make sure it does not have a side-to-side wobble. Make sure that the rims are not damaged, that the tops of the rims are securely engaging the tire at the rim bead, and that the rim braking surfaces are clean and undamaged. Inspect the spokes on the front and rear wheels to ensure that none are missing, that they are tight, and that they are all properly aligned. Inspect the front and rear brake pads to ensure they are in good condition and securely attached. Actuate the front and rear brake levers while watching the brakes to make sure that both are functioning properly and that each pad contacts the wheel rim in the correct position. Check that the brake elbow is seated into the brake quick release system and the brake cable is seated into the top end of the elbow and is free from pinches or sharp turns. Ensure that the brake pads contact the rim within the first inch of pulling on the levers and each brake pad lands completely on the rim. No brake pad should contact the tire or overhang off the rim. You should be able to apply full braking power before the levers contact the handlebars. Thoroughly inspect the steering column to ensure that the collar is resting on the steering base, that the arrow is pointed to the green lock on the steering column indication sticker, and the quick release levers on the collar are securely fastened. Ensure that the handlebars are aligned properly with the front wheel and that the steering extender quick release is securely fastened. Test the grips and bar ends on the handlebars. They should be in good condition and securely fastened so that they cannot be rotated. Actuate the gear shifter, shifting up and down through several gears to make sure it is functioning properly. Finish by shifting into 6th gear, then shifting down to 4th gear. Inspect the guide tracks to make sure that they are free from debris. By placing your hand on the foot platform, rotate the drive mechanism to ensure it is functioning properly. Visually inspect each drive arm carefully to ensure each has no visible signs of damage, especially cracking. Make sure you inspect both to the top and bottom of each arm. Visually inspect the frame to ensure it is free from damage. Check the adjustment on the Shimano Alfine hub. Make sure the gear shifter is in 4th gear, then look into the alignment window. Ensure that the yellow indicators are aligned. If the yellow indicators are not aligned, follow the procedure outlined in customer service video number 15, adjusting the Shimano hub. Ensure that the chain has the appropriate amount of tension and is clean and lubricated. The chain has the appropriate amount of tension when it is tight without binding through the entire revolution of the crank arm. Check that the bolts holding on the rear wheel and the Alfine hub are tightened appropriately. Finally, do a thorough once-over of the entire ElliptiGO bike, including checking each screw, bolt, fastener, and quick release system to make sure nothing is loose, damaged, or appears it will not function properly.
Before taking your first ride on the ElliptiGO, you should read your owner's manual and watch the Taking Your First Ride video.